Greetings nerds and virgins, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be going through the biggest cherry pickers in UFC history. But before we start, can you like and subscribe? I'm getting views, but I want some subscribers as well since I'm building a community here. So please subscribe to hop on the shadow train. Choo choo! Hop on the shadow train. But yeah, cherry picking in the fight game means choosing opponents that are easier to beat, and it's a hot topic among fans and fighters alike. Today we're diving into a controversial topic: UFC champions that some fans accuse of cherry picking. First up, we have Tyron Woodley in his prime, a name that stirs up quite a bit of debate among UFC fans. Woodley was the UFC welterweight champion from 2016 to 2019. During that time, he was known for explosive power and impressive takedown defense. However, his reign wasn't without some controversy. Some fans and analysts argued that Woodley was a bit of a cherry picker when it came to his opponents. For instance, many felt like he dodged fights with rising stars like Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman until he couldn't avoid them anymore. Instead, Woodley chose to rematch Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and to take on Damian Maia. These fighters, while talented, were seen as favourable matchups for Woodley's style. Next up, we have Michael Bisping, a true legend in UFC. Bisping finally captured UFC gold later in his career by defeating Luke Rockhold in 2016, a moment that had fans cheering around the world. But was his title reign actually that legit? Well, that's where things get a bit controversial, since instead of facing off against top contenders like Yoel Romero or Jacare Souza, Bisping decided to defend his title against an old washed up Dan Henderson. Now, Henderson is a veteran with a storied career, but at that point, he was far past his prime. This decision raised quite a few eyebrows among fans and analysts. Bisping's choice seemed to be driven by a couple of factors: a desire for revenge since Henderson had previously knocked him out in one of the most iconic knockouts in UFC history, and the potential for a big payday. But many fans felt let down believing Bisping was dodging the tougher fights. Moving on, let's talk about Conor McGregor. Love him or hate him, there's no denying that Conor is one of the biggest stars the UFC has ever seen. But his path to those shiny championship belts, well, it's been questioned quite a bit. After capturing the featherweight title in stunning fashion, Conor made a bold move. Instead of defending his featherweight belt, he jumped up to lightweight and fought Eddie Alvarez for the title. This decision had critics buzzing. Many argued that Conor was avoiding a rematch with Jose Aldo, who he had knocked out in just 13 seconds, or fights with top contenders like Frankie Edgar. They felt he was sidestepping the tougher challenges in the featherweight division. Instead, Conor chose to face Alvarez, who many believed was a more favourable matchup for him stylistically. And sure enough, Conor put on a spectacular performance, becoming the first ever fighter in UFC history to hold two titles in two weight classes simultaneously. Next up, we got GSP, George St Pierre, who is often hailed as the greatest UFC fighter of all time. There's no denying his incredible skill and legacy, but his middleweight title run, that's where things get a bit murky for some fans. After taking a 4-year break from the sport, GSP made a dramatic return in 2017 to fight Michael Bisping for the middleweight title. Now, Bisping had been a solid champion, but many felt he was one of the weaker champions in the division at that time. Fans and analysts alike thought GSP was cherry-picking his comeback fight. They were expecting him to face top middleweight contenders like Robert Whittaker or Yoel Romero, who were seen as more tougher matchups for him and worthy challenges. The next UFC fighter is Henry Cejudo, a phenomenal athlete who earned titles in both the flyweight and bantamweight divisions. He achieved a lot, but his approach to selecting opponents have stirred up quite a bit of controversy. When Cejudo won the UFC bantamweight title, he chose to defend it against Dominic Cruz, who was making a return after a long layoff. While Cruz is a legend, many fans and fighters felt that Cejudo was cherry-picking this fight. They thought Cejudo was avoiding tougher matchups with rising stars like Aljamain Sterling or Peter Yan, who were considered more dangerous and in their prime. This choice sparked quite a debate. Was Cejudo really avoiding the toughest challenges, or was he simply trying to make a splash with a high-profile name? Number 6 on our list, we have Ronda Rousey, a name that was synonymous with dominance in the women's bantamweight division. Rousey was an unstoppable force, but her choice of opponents has been quite a topic of a heated debate. Critics often point out that Rousey seemed to avoid tougher challenges, fighting opponents who were seen as less experienced. One major example is Chris Cyborg, a fighter who was considered one of the most dangerous in the sport at the time. Many fans and analysts felt that Ronda Rousey avoided a matchup with Cyborg could only have been a real test of her skills. While Rousey's reign was marked by a string of impressive victories and undeniable dominance, the cherry-picking accusations have stuck around. Rousey and her camp have consistently argued that they fought the best of available opponents at the time, and their choices were based on the circumstances of her career. Coming in at number 7 is Anderson Silva, a fighter who's often celebrated as one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time. Silva's reign as the UFC middleweight champion was nothing short of legendary, marked by his incredible skill and long title run. However, his list of title defenses had faced some criticism. During his dominance, Silva defended his title against fighters like Patrick Cote, Thales Leeds. While these were solid competitors, they weren't necessarily the top contenders in the division at that time. Critics argued that Silva seemed to avoid more challenging matchups with rising stars who was eager to test their skills against the champ. Up next though, we have Brock Lesnar, whose UFC career saw a meteoric rise that left many fans in awe. However, his choice of opponents has drawn some scrutiny over the years. After capturing the heavyweight title, Lesnar defended his belt against fighters like Frank Mir and Shane Carwin. While both Mir and Shane Carwin were skilled, many critics felt they were more favourable matchups for Lesnar compared to some of the tougher challenges lurking in the heavyweight division. Fans often wondered if Lesnar was steering clear of more formidable opponents who could have tested him more significantly. Up next we got Jon Jones, a fighter often celebrated as one of the most talented and dynamic in UFC history, even though he does steroids. Despite his incredible skills and numerous victories, his choice of opponents has sometimes sparked debate. Jones has faced and defeated many of the top contenders in the light heavyweight division. However, there have been moments fans questioned his decision. For instance, some felt that Jones avoided moving up heavyweight earlier in his career, or delayed a much anticipated rematch with Alexander Gustafsson, who had pushed him to the limits in their first fight, and he's currently ducking Tom Aspinall, trying to cherry pick an old washed up Stipe Miocic. Also, I must include Ilia Topuria might be a cherry picker. It's unconfirmed yet, but from the looks of it, he's a major cherry picker because apparently he's going to be fighting a broomstick in his next championship fight, because he's saying he doesn't want to fight any of the fucking featherweight contenders. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, but he might be a future cherry picker as well. So what do you think though? Are these fighters guilty of cherry picking, or were they making smart decisions based on business? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's get the conversation going. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hop on the shadow train. Choo choo, hop on the shadow train. But yeah, I'll see you at the chill.
You tried to break me, but you couldn't tear me apart. I've got a fire inside, gonna ignite and restart. I'm rising up higher than before. With every step I take, I'm closing in on